Hello guys, welcome back to another class of our course. So in the last class, we mostly talk about strings, what are strings, how strings work, and in today's class, we are going to talk about another type of data, which are numbers. So my goal is today to show you how works number, what exactly we can do with numbers in Python, and we are going to talk about some basic Python functions and how to use them. Alright, so let's begin. So before we start, you guys need to understand that in Python we have to access all the math functions. We need to write simple line of code. We simply write down from math import. Here, write a little star at the end. When it's all done, you are able to write down all math functions that you want. And trust me, in Python, you have hundreds of different math functions. And my goal here is simply to show you how to give you an introduction to all of this. So let's start. Alright. So you have different type of numbers that exist well in everyday life as well. So you have a complete number. Let's say the complete number is 45. Now you have a negative number, so minus 45, and you have numbers like this float 26.321. So those are the numbers that we will work with in Python. So the first thing that we are going to do is make basic functions. So in this case, we are going to talk about addition, subtraction, multiplication and division. So how all this work? Very simple. So if I started in same way, you write down print. Let's say you want to 10 plus 10. Simply write it down like this and you can run your code. As you can see, the answer is 20. So Python gives us 20 as an answer. Same thing, if for example you do 10 plus 10 multiply by 3. So what cool Python is that with respect the priority operations, it's going to first multiply by 3 into 10 and then plus 10. So this will returns 40. But let's say for example I want to do 10 plus 10 at first. So I will simply need to enter the parenthesis and then I run this code. So as you can see, my answer is 60. Alright, so now let's say I have more than one operation. So I have all those operations. I have addition, that I have multiplication, I have division, and I have, let's say, subtraction. So we want the calculation of this. So all this very important. If you don't have the right amount of parentheses, Python was simply not to run this code. So very important to have the right amount of parentheses. So as you can see here, the answer to my calculation. So as I explained, Python is really a huge well. It's all can be used as huge calculator and you have to access all the mathematical formulas in it. Alright, so this is to understand how to make basic calculation in Python. Next thing that we will, before to continue, just give a small difference between numbers and string and the way you will write it down. So let's say you want to print a number, so you will simply write down the print, open and close parenthesis. Let's say you want to print a word, just write quotation marks and write down the word and it's going to return to be word. If you want to print a number, you don't have to write quotation marks here. You can just write down your number. In this case, let's say 202. As you can see here, the answer is 202. If you write down those quotation marks, it's gonna to be work, but only thing is that it will not to be work like numbers. And if it's not a number, well, it will simply not work as a calculation. So let's say I want to add this 20 with plus 20. So it will not work because in this case you are trying to make an addition of number with a string. So it's normal that it's not working. Even if write 202 like number and 202 like string, even if this is the same answer, as you can see it gives the exact same thing, but the first is a string and the second one is the number. So with this first number in quotation, we can't work with them like addition, subtraction and everything. And the second one, this will work. Alright, let's say right now we have a string. So in this case, let's say we have print. Well, we have our sentence. So we have a small sentence which will be, in this case, hello, my age is 25. So I have my sentence right now. Let's say I want to work with my 25. Let's say when I store my 25 into a variable which is called age, and we will store 25 in this age. Then what I want to do, I want to integrate my age right here. So in this case, it's gonna something look like this. I have my text here and I added age, but since it's a string and a number, we will have a year right here. It doesn't work. So how you can modify this? It's very simple. First of all, you can transform your variable right here, which is a number, into string. So let's say I want to transfer into string. In this case, it will work. Hello, my age is 25. But let's say I want to keep this as a number because I want to make calculation or whatever I want to do with it. So how I will do this? It's very simple. I will simply work with function. In this case, this will be a function that will transform my age, which is number, into string. So in this case, I will simply write down str function. So when it's all done, we run this code. It works. So it gives us hello, my age is 25. So you can see it works perfectly. So this is a good way if you guys want to work with numbers and strings. Let's say for example we want to make calculations here. It's gonna to be 25 plus 10, and in this case my age is 35. So here I have two numbers together and I transform them into a string here. So I will be able to work with the strings and with numbers that I transform in a string as well. So right now you understand how it works. So those are the basics. Next thing that we are going to talk about will be functions that you guys can use with numbers. So let's say for example, you have a small database of numbers. So let's say I would write print I have 1, 5, 6, 2, 9, 4, 30. I have all those numbers, and from all those numbers I want to find out which is the highest number. So what exactly I do? I will use a function to find out which is the highest number with between all those numbers. So in this case, it's gonna to be a max function. And I run this code, and as you can see here, the max number printed is 30. I can have any type of numbers right here. I can have negative numbers and I can have also positive numbers. So here we write -5, -2. I can have any type of numbers, it will still work. Alright, so this is the max function. If you guys have a database of numbers and you want to find out highest number with the max function, the next function we are going to talk about will be the min function, which is how to find out smallest number possible. In this case, we use min function. Right here, we simply write down min function here instead of max. As you can see here, minimum value is printed -5. So even if your number are very complicated, so let's say you have a 0.2136 and any other type of number, it will always find out the smallest number between all those numbers. So as you can see, it will always find out the smallest number between all those numbers. So right now, you understand how to find out the biggest and smallest number. Let's say you want to do more complex calculation that integrates, let's say, making calculating power. So write print. In this case, we want to calculate power of number. So we want to find 5 power 2. So in this case, it give you 25. So how do we calculate this? It's very simple. You have a function that will calculate this. In this case, the power 5 power 2. Well, this is the power. So instead of doing this, we use power function. So we check it if works or not. So we run it again and it doesn't work in right manner. If you want to make this calculation, it's going to use power function. So here we write 5 power 2. So do we write simply 5 comma 2. We run our function. As you can see, it gives us 25 as an answer. Once again, we can make our other calculation. So let's say 52 by 36 plus power function. And we run this code. And as you can see here, the answer is 26.44444. Alright, so right now we know how to calculate all this. Let's say we want to add another function to our calculation. We want this number as complete number. In this case, we want instead of having 26.4444, we want only 26. So how exactly we do this? Once again, it's very simple. So there is another function. So we will be simply generate that number which is closest to complete number. So in this case, 26 will be the closest complete number. So it's very simple. It will be round function. And you can run this code. So it gives us 26. So let me explain what exactly done here. we ask Python to run this calculation and give us the round-off value. Well, it print the round-off value for the calculation. In this case, it's 26. Let's say right now we have negative numbers, so we write down minus sign here and we run our calculation. So as you can see, our answer is minus 26. And let's say right now we want to have a positive number, but still we have a negative 26. So how do we do this? It's very simple. We have another function in Python that is called ABS, which will calculate the absolute value for minus 26. So how do we this? Simply write ABS open and close parenthesis. We will run this code. As you can see here, our answer is 26. Let me just give you a small demo. What is exactly ABS function? So let's say you have minus 20 and that you want to print. You want have the absolute value of 20. ABS function will simply give you the absolute value of minus 20. So we write here ABS function. So as you can see here, you have 20, which is the absolute value of minus 20. Right here, you will do a bit complicated math calculation. Well, when we go step by step, it's not hard to understand. Right now, we ask Python to print the absolute value of minus of round value of this calculation. In this case, you can see it integrates all functions that we want to together. Let's say right now we want to square root of something. So in this case, we simply write down print sqrt and we want the square root of 25. Run it. It's gonna be 5. So once again, this is the another math function you can do on Python. As I explained you can do absolutely anything on Python that you can do on calculator. Alright, so let's talk about some more advanced math function that you can have on Python. Once again, you have hundreds of them, but some are very important. In some are commonly used and just some basic one that I found on internet and that I think interesting to show you guys that you can have on Python. And if you want to have others that you want to use, you can just go on Google and write down Python math functions. You will have hundreds of them. So let me just show you some basics that exist on well that you can use. So the first one will be cell. This function is very simple. It will return you the smallest integral value greater than number. So let's say for example, I wrote cell upon in this case 23.999 and I run it. So it's gonna to be 24. But if I wrote 23.001, it's gonna to be 24 as well, because we return in this case the hashed value after 23 even if it's 23 and infinity of zeros. We will return 24, not an infinity of zeros. Let's say enough zeros, because if it's an infinity, it's gonna to be too much close to 23. Alright. So the next question is, if let's say want to do the reverse of a cell function, in this case we want to return the greatest value. So in this the first case it was the smallest value, and in the next one return the greatest value. So it's gonna to be floor function. So instead of cell, we will write down floor function. So as you can see, it returns 23. Well, even if your basic number is 23.999, as you can see here, it returns also 23. Another way to calculate absolute value. If you want to calculate the factorial of something, the factorial of a function is a simple number and you multiply all the smallest number of this number by until you reach the number. So let's say for example, factorial value of 5 is 1 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 3 multiplied by 4 multiplied by 5. Alright, so let's calculate the factorial of something. In this case, we write simply print and just write down factorial. Let's say we want just factorial of 3. In this case, the answer will simply be 6 because we did 1 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 3. But let's say you have a huge number which will be, let's say 100, which is really huge. As you can see, the answer is huge because with it 1 multiplied by 2 multiplied by 3 multiplied by 4 until 100. So that's it. This is the numbers part. So until now, we saw all the different types of numbers. We talk about how to make basic calculations and we talk how to work with strings and numbers and how to store both of them together. So you should be able to do it on your own right now. We'll talk about some basic math functions. Alright, I hope you understand what are strings, what are numbers, and how to work with them. So that's it for this class, and I will see you in next class.